I drop my overnight bag on Grandpa Arthur's doorstep, my hands trembling so badly I can hardly press the doorbell. The folder of medical documents I had rushed together slips from my grip, scattering insurance cards and medication lists across the concrete in the autumn wind. My lungs burn after running up the steps, leaving my rental car in the driveway. Mom's words still echo in my head. Willow, it's Dad. We think he's had a stroke. You need to come right away. The door opens, and my grandfather stands there in his favorite cardigan, holding a mug of coffee. His silver eyebrows lift in surprise. Willow? What are you doing here? My knees nearly give way. Grandpa, you're okay? Of course I am. Why wouldn't I be? I push past him into the foyer, my heart pounding. Mom called me about a stroke. I was in Denver. I canceled my presentation to the investment board and got on the first flight. He frowns, placing his mug on the entryway table. That's strange. I haven't spoken to your mother in days. A cold suspicion creeps through me. With shaking fingers, I pull out my phone and open Instagram. There it is, posted just 2 hours ago. My mother, father, and brother Jackson smiling on a beach, margaritas in hand. The location tag reads, Cabo San Lucas. I turn the screen toward Grandpa. His confused expression shifts as he studies the image. They told me you were too busy to come, he says softly. That you had important meetings all week. The betrayal hits me hard. At 32, I've worked double shifts, waitressed through college and my MBA, while my parents paid every cent of my younger brother's education. Jackson never held a job until the family gave him one at Reyes Retreats, the boutique hotel chain my grandfather built from nothing. Just months ago, my parents promised me leadership of the new Seattle branch, a role I had earned through years of loyalty and skill. 2 weeks before the launch, they quietly handed it to Jackson instead. He just has the right personality for hospitality, my father said, as if my years in the business meant nothing. My hands stop shaking as anger replaces shock. I call my mother and put her on speaker. She answers on the 5th ring, laughter and waves in the background. I'm with Grandpa, I say, my voice steady though my heart races. He's perfectly fine. A pause. Oh, well, I must have misunderstood your father. These things happen, honey. Misunderstood? I hold up the Cabo photos. Is the beach nice this time of year? Another pause. Longer this time. You're overreacting again. We tried to include you, but you said you were busy with work. That's odd since I never got an invitation. And you told Grandpa I was too busy to visit him. Willow, really? These things wouldn't happen if you stayed more connected with us instead of always focusing on work. Grandpa motions for the phone. I hand it to him. Elena, he says firmly, his voice steady for someone they tried to convince me was at death's door. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a lie. He hangs up and gives the phone back. They've been doing this for years, Willow, keeping us apart. I follow him into his study, sunlight streaming through tall windows. What do you mean? They've been cutting me out of decisions, even though I founded the company, he says, settling into his leather chair. Just like they've been cutting you out in favor of Jackson. My stomach knots. But you're still the majority shareholder. On paper, he replies, pulling a folder from his desk drawer. But they've been moving behind my back, and yours. The realization crashes over me. Every late night at the office, every business trip, every sacrifice to earn their respect, it never mattered. They never intended to see me as their equal. I sink into the chair across from him. What are we going to do? A small smile crosses his face. Fight back. I trail Grandpa into his study, still unsettled by the Cabo photos. The room carries the scent of old books and a trace of his aftershave. He moves to the far wall, sliding back a panel to reveal a hidden safe. I've been collecting evidence for months, he says, turning the dial with practiced ease. Never thought I'd use it against my own son. The safe clicks open. He pulls out a thick manila folder stamped confidential in bold red letters. These are copies of transactions, trust documents, and internal memos Elena and Dean thought I couldn't access. His voice falters slightly as he sets the folder on his mahogany desk. You'd better sit down for this. Willow, my stomach tightens as I open the folder. Bank statements stare back at me. Trust withdrawal slips. Board meeting records. My vision blurs as I take in the numbers. This can't be right, I whisper, running my finger down a column. 2.1 million my trust fund, systematically drained. Arthur confirms with a tight jaw to fuel Jackson's lifestyle. The Aspen condo. The yacht membership. The consulting fees that never led to any real work. My legs give out and I collapse into the leather chair. The room spins as I stare at a document showing a $190,000 payment to a law firm for traffic violations. Jackson's drunk driving incident last year, Arthur explains. The one officially erased. A pedestrian had been injured. My parents used my money to cover it up. I push aside the nausea as I uncover a draft agreement transferring ownership of Ree's Retreats to Jackson after Arthur's death. Another $2.1 million inheritance meant for me. I need to call Diana, I say, pulling out my phone with trembling hands. Arthur nods. Your cousin may be the only lawyer we can trust, Diana answers on the third ring. I put her on speaker and spread the documents across the desk, letting her see them through video call. Arthur stands beside me, steadying me with a hand on my shoulder. These papers show systematic fraud, Diana says, her voice sharp and steady. Look at the dates. They match the board meetings when you were sent away to inspect other properties. She points to a transfer visible on screen. That Cayman account isn't just favoritism, Willow. It's fraud and abuse of fiduciary duty. Arthur slides another folder toward the camera. What about these? Diana gasps. Competency hearing documents. They were planning to have you declared mentally unfit. Arthur's face drains of color. His grip tightens on the desk. My own son. There's more, Diana continues firmly. Tax evasion. Offshore accounts. False board minutes. They wanted everything, yours and Arthur's. The weight presses down on my chest. My whole life. Double shifts to pay tuition. Holidays spent working instead of resting. Loyalty to the family business, all built on lies. What if they succeed? I ask, my throat dry. You'll lose everything, Diana replies flatly. Not just the $2.1 million they've already taken. Your position. Your inheritance. All of it. I think of the New York job I rejected 3 months ago. Executive finance director at Harrison Hotels. 6-figure salary. Stock options. All turned down for the family business. You'll face financial ruin, Arthur says quietly, while Jackson lives off my 50 years of work. Willow. Diana's voice softens. If you fight this, they'll cut you off completely. This isn't just about money. You'll lose what's left of your family, I let out a bitter laugh. What family? The people who deceived me all my life? Arthur sinks into his chair, looking suddenly frail at 76. There's something else. My health, early-stage heart issues. Nothing fatal yet, but you need someone you trust, I finish. He nods and pulls out a folder. These papers name you as my healthcare proxy and financial power of attorney. If you agree, I don't hesitate. My hand is steady as I sign. Each stroke feels deliberate, a small win in the middle of devastation. The weight of responsibility settles on me, not just for myself, but for the man who built what my parents are stealing. As I hold the signed papers, I wonder, confront them now or build my case quietly? The thought of exposing them is tempting, but silence may give me the edge of surprise. Would you choose confrontation or patience after such betrayal? A week later, the Paramount Hotel ballroom shines with champagne glasses and staged smiles. I stand by a potted palm, watching my parents beam as photographers capture Jackson, announced as the new CEO of Ree's Retreats. His smile is rehearsed. His words polished about innovation and fresh leadership. A former colleague approaches, then hesitates. Oh, I thought you'd already left the company. I force a neutral tone. Just restructuring my role. She glances at my parents, then back at me. Well, good luck with whatever's next. She leaves before I reply. The same scene repeats 5 times before I slip out the service entrance. My phone buzzes. Our marketing director cancels tomorrow's meeting. The 3rd cancellation this week. The next morning, a financial alert flashes on my phone. The Sedona property, part of my inheritance, sold without my consent. The authorized agent listed, my brother. I call the family attorney, but only reach voicemail. When I called the company's legal department, the receptionist put me on hold before returning with the news. My access had been suspended until the leadership transition was complete. That afternoon, Jackson appeared on the regional business report. His voice was calm as he explained the company needed rescuing from years of mismanagement. Family loyalty, he added, sometimes required hard choices. His words felt like a direct blow. 10 years of 60-hour weeks, missed vacations, and abandoned relationships, all dismissed as mismanagement. Back in my apartment, I tried logging into my company email, only to be asked for a password I had never created. IT confirmed the change had been authorized by leadership. Sleep quickly became a luxury I couldn't afford. Each night I lay awake, calculating losses, replaying conversations, searching for signs I should have noticed. The apartment that once felt peaceful now seemed like a cage. During a conference call I managed to join anonymously, a board member referred to me as the Reyes situation. My hands shook so violently I dropped my coffee, the mug shattering while the meeting went on without me. My dining table turned into a command center. Financial statements spread across the surface, legal references stacked in piles beside my grandfather's original documents. I built timelines of every questionable transfer and suspicious decision, slowly uncovering a pattern of deliberate betrayal. One Wednesday evening, a knock came at my door. I opened it to find Margaret, our family housekeeper of 20 years. She pressed a small key into my palm and whispered, "Some things aren't right. Your grandfather always said, silence makes us guilty." I recognized the key immediately. It opened my father's private office. 3 nights later, during a family dinner, I used the chance to slip away. While my mother guided guests through their renovations, I turned the key in my father's study. Inside, I worked quickly, photographing forged transfer authorizations, backdated board minutes, and altered trust documents. 15 minutes later, the door opened. My father stood there, his face hardening as he took in the scene. His voice carried the same tone he used when I was 8 and had scribbled on his desk calendar, "What do you think you're doing?" I continued photographing a memo, answering evenly, "Finding the truth you've hidden from me my whole life." He stepped closer, looming as always. But this time I didn't shrink back. I stood taller. "Leave before I call security," he hissed, reaching for my arm. I lifted my phone, showing the dozens of photos already saved. "I have everything I need." The mask of authority slipped from his face, replaced by fear. And in that moment, something shifted. I no longer feared his judgment. The realization was so freeing, I almost laughed. Quietly, I said, "You've always underestimated me. That was your greatest mistake." That night, Diana worked beside me, organizing evidence across her apartment. When I offered payment, she shook her head. "Consider this repayment for how they treated my mother." Grandpa Arthur arrived with a leather portfolio containing the company's original formation documents. "They thought these burned in last year's fire," he said. Margaret later called with another tip, files hidden beneath the flooring of the garden shed behind the pool house. This unlikely alliance of the overlooked and underestimated stood with me, not because of blood, but because of shared values. The contrast with my parents' manipulation had never been clearer. In Diana's kitchen, we reviewed the strategy. A forgotten clause in the company's original contract allowed for ownership to be revoked in cases of proven fraud. Diana then slid a folder toward me. "The FBI is already investigating Jackson. An agent believes there's proof of bribery." The next morning, I walked through the glass doors of Reyes Retreat headquarters. The receptionist froze at my appearance. I moved past her into the boardroom, 4 FBI agents following silently behind me. For the first time in months, I smiled. The mahogany table gleamed under the lights, reflecting the stunned faces of the board. My mother's champagne glass froze midair, Jackson's confident smile faded, and my father stood abruptly, chair scraping across the floor. "What's the meaning of this, Willow?" he demanded. I set down my leather portfolio. "I'm here to present evidence of serious financial misconduct at Reyes Retreat." The room fell silent. With steady hands, I distributed documents to each board member. Gone was the trembling daughter desperate for approval. In her place stood a woman carrying proof. "These financial records show systematic fraud over the last 5 years," I said calmly. Page 3 details how $2.1 million of my trust was diverted. Page 7 shows company funds used to cover Jackson's drunk driving cover-up. Board member Patricia Morton adjusted her glasses, her eyes widening at the numbers. My father snapped, his face red. "This is absurd. These papers are fabricated." I continued without pause. Arthur's original contract states clearly, if fraud or unethical conduct is proven, ownership may be revoked. Board Chairman Richard Donovan leaned forward. "These allegations are very serious, Dean." "They're also true," I replied. "I formally request a vote to remove my parents and brother from leadership, effective immediately." The CFO quietly slid his chair away from my father. 2 other board members exchanged glances, then shut their folders. Jackson leapt up, knocking over his water. "This is ridiculous." "She made it all up because Dad chose me to lead." At that moment, one of the FBI agents stepped forward. "Mr. Reyes, I'm Special Agent Becker. We have independent evidence of the Aspen incident, including proof of the $190,000 payment to the victim's family using company funds." Jackson's face pales. My mother rises, smoothing her silk blouse with unsteady hands. "This is a family matter. It should be handled privately. I move to adjourn this meeting now." Chairman Donovan clears his throat. "Elena, using company funds for personal expenses is exactly why this discussion is necessary." Board member Martin Wright, who has played golf with my father for 2 decades, turns toward him with suspicion. "Dean, what about the expansion property in Sedona? Was that purchase properly approved?" My father stays silent, sweat forming at his hairline. When the chairman asks if I want my parents arrested or simply removed from the company, I hesitate. Would justice be better served with public consequences, or by reclaiming what was mine while preserving the family's reputation? The boardroom door opens. Grandpa Arthur enters slowly, leaning on his cane. His silver hair shines under the light, and despite his frail frame, his presence dominates the room. Conversation stops instantly. "I founded this company 50 years ago," he says, his voice stronger than his body suggests. "I built it on integrity, not deception." Diana follows him in, carrying a leather case. Her attorney's confidence is clear as she sets documents on the table. These legal papers transfer Arthur's controlling shares to Willow Reyes. They are executed and binding as of this morning. Margaret, our longtime housekeeper, steps forward from the door. My mother's jaw tightens at the sight of her in the boardroom. "I've seen documents destroyed in the Reyes home," Margaret states firmly. "Financial records, contracts, and correspondence that Mr. Dean Reyes ordered me to burn." I recorded dates and descriptions. The chairman examines the transfer documents, then looks at my grandfather. "Arthur, are you certain of this?" "More certain than I've been about anything in years," he replies. The vote is swift and unanimous. My parents and Jackson are removed from all company positions, effective immediately. I stand at the head of the table, in the chair my father held only moments earlier. The weight of leadership settles on me, not as a burden, but as a role I was meant to take. Across the room, Jackson's confident smile fades as he realizes the truth. His eyes dart between the FBI agents and the board, searching for support but finding none. My mother's carefully applied makeup streaks as tears fall. "This will ruin the company," she whispers. But the board, having seen the evidence, remains unmoved. My father pushes back his chair. "This meeting is over. We'll fight these false claims." He heads for the door but is stopped by 2 FBI agents. "Dean Reyes." We have questions regarding tax evasion and misuse of funds, Agent Becker says. I gather my documents and address the board. I'm calling an emergency company-wide meeting tomorrow at 9. Every employee deserves clarity and reassurance about their jobs. I meet my father's eyes directly. Some things are about to change here. On my phone, a message flashes with quiet desperation. We need to talk before this goes further. Dad's office, 7 a.m. I delete my mother's message without replying, but I will be there, not because they deserve it, but because I want to face them. At 7 sharp, I enter my father's office. The room feels smaller now. My parents and Jackson look up. Dad sits stiffly behind his desk, his once commanding posture now forced. Mom's eyes are red, tissues in her hand. Jackson paces near the window, halting when he sees me. Willow, please sit, my father says, his voice unusually soft. We want to explain. I remain standing. I've heard enough explanations to last a lifetime. You're overreacting, Mom interrupts, dabbing her eyes. We've always acted in your best interest. By stealing my inheritance? By trying to declare Grandpa incompetent? Dad spreads his hands in a conciliatory gesture. Look, we can compromise. We'll issue a public apology. You can share control of the Seattle properties if you drop the most serious charges. Think carefully, Mom adds, her voice sharper now despite her tears. The scandal will destroy everything your grandfather built. When I remain unmoved, she changes tactics. Your behavior shows you're unfit to lead. Arthur's transfer wasn't rational. Perhaps we should revisit his competency evaluation. The old Willow might have faltered at this. Today, I smile. I've already met with the major investors, I say, pulling a folder from my case. They fully support my leadership. I lay testimonials from hotel staff on the desk. These show improved working conditions since I took control last week. People perform better when they're not afraid of being fired for speaking up. My father reaches for the papers, but I pull them back. I'm not here to negotiate. I'm here to inform. I stand taller, no longer diminished by them. For 32 years, you undermined me while pretending to support me. You promised me the Seattle branch, then gave it to Jackson. You funded his education while I worked double shifts. You stole my inheritance while claiming I wasn't ready. My voice stays steady as I deliver the final words. I don't need your approval anymore. I never truly had it. Jackson steps away from the window. This is absurd. You can't. Your choices are simple, I cut him off. Face full charges for fraud, embezzlement, and conspiracy, or surrender all claims to the business and repay what you've taken. You have until the 9 a.m. meeting to decide. The grand atrium of Reyes Retreat headquarters hums with nervous energy as employees gather. Sunlight streams through the glass ceiling, illuminating the crowd. I spot my parents and Jackson entering through a side door, their security badges briefly reinstated for this meeting. I step onto the stage, adjusting the microphone. Thank you all for being here today. My name is Willow Reyes, and as of yesterday, I have officially taken leadership of Reyes Retreats after uncovering serious financial misconduct by previous management. A low murmur spreads through the room. From the corner of my eye, I notice my father's disapproving glare. My first action as CEO, I continue, is to announce a complete restructuring of our company. I pause, making eye contact with longtime employees who had often overlooked me. Effective immediately, all employees with more than 1 year of service will be included in a profit-sharing program. The whispers grow louder, filled with surprise. I also want to recognize someone whose loyalty and integrity have preserved the best of this company. I motion toward the back. Margaret Franklin, please join me. Margaret walks forward, her sensible shoes echoing on the marble floor. She has worked for my family since before I was born, always present, always observant. Margaret is being promoted to executive housekeeper, overseeing all retreat properties. Her first responsibility will be implementing a living wage for all housekeeping staff. Applause fills the hall as I shake her hand. My mother's expression tightens in shock. To her, Margaret had always been just the help. I am also establishing the Arthur Vernon Scholarship Fund for employees' children. Education transformed my life, and it should be available to every member of our Reyes family. As I speak, maintenance staff carefully remove the oil portraits of my parents from the lobby wall, replacing them with a candid photograph of Grandpa Arthur and me, laughing together at last year's Christmas party. When the meeting ends, employees who once ignored me now approach with congratulations and suggestions. Near the exit, my parents and Jackson stand frozen, their badges already deactivated, shut out of the empire they once controlled. That afternoon, rumors circulate about the settlement my parents signed. Many say they face heavy financial penalties, with the possibility of prison if they break the terms. Later, as I review proposals for our Seattle property, my assistant knocks. "Your brother is here. He insists on speaking with you," I nod. When Jackson enters, he is alone. No parents, no swagger. For the first time since childhood, he looks at me directly. "I didn't know," he says quietly, his usual arrogance gone. "About any of it." I swear. I set down my pen, unsure what comes next for a family broken by its own lies. 1 year later, I adjust presentation slides before a board meeting. Since taking over, Reyes Retreat's profits have grown 22%. Not bad for the daughter no one believed could lead. The executives file in. People who once ignored me now greet me by name, their handshakes firm, their eyes steady. Last month, 3 major hotel publications requested interviews. Just 6 months ago, the industry barely acknowledged me. "Let's begin," I say confidently, my voice clear. Afterward, I walk through our flagship property, stopping to ask Carmen about her son's college applications. The scholarship committee meets next week. Make sure his paperwork is submitted. "Thank you, Ms. Reyes. Under your father, I would never have brought up my children. This year, the scholarship fund is helping 38 employees' children. When I greet housekeepers by name, Maria, Thomas, Lena, their surprised smiles remind me how invisible they once felt under my parents. That evening, the industry's annual gala gleams with chandeliers and champagne fountains, yet everything feels different. I smooth my emerald gown, no more fading into the background. This year's Hotelier of the Year has achieved impressive growth while pioneering employee benefit programs, the announcer declares. When they call my name, applause roars. Exactly a year ago, this stage announced Jackson as CEO. Now I stand at the same podium, the Crystal Award in my hands. Success isn't about what you own, I say firmly. It's about the legacy of integrity you leave behind. This award belongs to every employee who trusted me. In the crowd, Grandpa Arthur's eyes shine with pride. He taught me that true leadership is earned through service, not inherited by blood. It's a lesson I carry daily. 2 weeks later, Arthur raises a glass at Diana's lakeside home. Margaret sits beside him, now retired, her posture relaxed. "To the family we choose," Diana toasts. "To integrity restored," Margaret adds warmly. Arthur watches me with pride as I share plans for our Miami expansion. "You've exceeded every expectation, Willow, not just as a businesswoman, but as a leader." The following Monday, autumn sunlight streams into my office as I review blueprints for a new concept. Boutique hotels built around employee well-being centers, where staff care receives the same attention as guest experience. My assistant enters with a cream-colored envelope. Inside is a letter from Jackson. His Seattle restaurant venture now employs people rebuilding their lives, former inmates, recovering addicts, survivors of abuse. "I learned from watching you rebuild what our parents destroyed," he writes. "Maybe someday we could talk again?" I place the letter beside a photo of Grandpa Arthur at 25, standing proudly before his first hotel, holding his handwritten business plan. Next to it sits my own vision for Reyes Retreats, built on fairness and respect instead of favoritism and deceit. As I read my brother's letter, I wonder, can family bonds heal after deep betrayal? Or is it wiser to honor the good that was, while accepting that some ties are better left in the past? What would you choose?